many people in America fear their government, and the government is being run by too many powerful agencies like the IRS and others. I think it's time the people take the country back through their representative government.
Hey, Mr. Politician, living on that hill, living in that lap of luxury on we the people's bill. Don't have a clue how the other half lives, and that is a shame. It's time to stop the tyranny. You keep pushing through your bills. Going for revolution, going for it now. It's time to save our Constitution while we still got the guns in our hands.
Hi, I'm Renee Kimball, and welcome to Freedom TV. We're going to have a very interesting show for you today. We're going to be talking about chiropractic, but not your normal chiropractic practice. This is if your back is out, this comes to you. So you don't have to sit in the office for 2.5 hours wondering what happened. So we're going to be talking about Triveda mobile chiropractic in a very few minutes. First, I'm going to climb on my sovereign soapbox, however. This is a little segment that we have that allows me an opportunity to talk about something that I find of interest or that I find rather important. And this week we're going to be talking about David D's illustrations. He's a very interesting fellow. He lives in Sweden. He's an expatriate American who actually lives in Sweden now. And if we can go to some of his illustrations, you'll see why I think they're really incredible. This is his idea of, maybe you've heard about the Bilderbergs. If you haven't, they're supposed to be an elite group who are running the world and sort of keeping the world in chains and flames. And another one of David's graphics that he puts together from stuff that's available, and he puts these ideas together, and here are people fleeing from the Fern or the Federal Reserve note to, hey, real money, across a bridge with a lot of alligators. And we all know who those guys are. They're called the Federal Reserve. So the next one is, and the ideas that David puts together are really clever, very clever ideas. And he just kind of puts these graphics and comes up with these ideas of what you might consider new art. This is graphic art put together with bits and pieces of other things, and he's created very clever images. And the next one is, I think you'll find, this is one of my favorites. Do you get it now? Does it get any more clear? And David does make these all available for free on the internet. So you can go and use his stuff, and he doesn't charge people for access to this. And the reason that I'm promoting David's stuff, besides putting them on and giving you kind of a highlight, is if we can go to the next picture, David is, well, let's put it this way, if he puts the stuff up for free, he's not exactly making the big paychecks. So he does live in Sweden, and recently his cat suffered a very interesting, shall we say, confrontation with a vehicle. And guess who came out the loser? So David is in Sweden, and this is his contact information. So if you'd like to give David some words of encouragement and or other things, please go to his website, see his stuff, appreciate his stuff, and do contact David, if for no other reason than to tell him you wish him well with his cat, Oni. I think it's Oni, his cat. So that's my Sovereign Soapbox for this week. And we're now going to go to our regular segment, which is Surviving and Thriving. And this is survival in the wilderness, things that you can do with first aid. And I think this one is slings. So soft slings, things that you can make to help you. So surviving and thriving.
If I suspect you have a broken ankle, what I'm going to do is apply a soft splint. I'm going to take my 550 cord with the loop knot tied in the end, slide it under your ankle, being careful not to move it. And then what I'm going to do is take my sweatshirt and carefully roll it up lengthwise to actually become the splint. And then we take that and we wrap it around the bottom of the foot and around the ankle. Then we take our 550 cord and tie it and pull it snug. Once I've got the first loop done, what I want to do is add a second one above the ankle. Is bring it around again. And this time I want to tie it off. What I'm going to do is just simply tie it off. And then what this does is it helps to stabilize both sides of the ankle, and it limits the motion forward and back on the ankle so that it stabilizes it and it won't do any further damage. A great substitution for 550 cord on a soft splint is gaffer's tape out of your survival kit. When applying an anatomical splint, all you're doing is utilizing another part of the body to support the part that's been broken or injured. In this case, we're utilizing a finger to support the other finger that has been injured by wrapping it with tape. The same philosophy can be used on an arm strapped to the body or the leg tied to each other. One of the most important first aid skills to learn is how to properly apply a sling. What we have here is a triangular bandage. And what you want to do is just simply take what is called the short corner, which is the short end of the bandage, and just tie a knot in it. It's just an overhand knot, and pull it tight. Once we have the knot tied in the sling, what you want to do is put that right behind the elbow. And then the part of the sling that is closest to the body goes to the injured shoulder. The part of the sling that goes over the arm goes to the far shoulder. Before we tie it, what we want to do is make sure the arm is in the correct position. The proper position for a sling is to have the bottom of the wrist the same height as the top of the elbow. Once we get the arm in that position, we can go ahead and pull on the sling to tighten it up and get ready to tie it behind the neck.
Hi, welcome back to Freedom TV, and today I'm here with Mareechi Duvvuri, and we're talking about Triveda mobile chiropractic.
Yes.
This is kind of an interesting idea. Now, what's your background? Because Triveda, that's not exactly, you know.
It's a Sanskrit word.
It's a Sanskrit word. What does it actually mean?
Tri is three.
Three.
Veda means knowledge.
Three knowledges.
Yeah, three wisdoms I like to tell people. And whatever one's philosophical, religious background, etc., you'll have something which will fit into that.
Excellent.
So for me, it's a way to help people to put together spirit, mind, and body.
And body.
Because without those three working together, then we're going to be discombobulated.
You will look like that guy over there.
Exactly, that's right.
Now, why chiropractic? Why did you go into the field of chiropractic, especially with your background? You're from India?
Yes, I was born in India.
Born in India. I mean, is chiropractic a big deal? I mean, I haven't heard of a lot of chiropractors from India. You know, Ayurveda, yeah,
sure,
but not chiropractic. Why did you choose chiropractic?
Well, when I was a child, I knew that I did want to become a doctor. Of course, at that time, it was a medical doctor. So as I progressed along my schooling, I started to notice that medical practices for me did not hold. They were not hitting me here in the heart.
Right.
So a friend of mine, he got me interested in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, which I consequently did attend the Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. I was enrolled in the Masters of Traditional Oriental Medicine program there, and I completed 2 years. Still, I wasn't feeling...
Yeah, it wasn't quite doing it.
Exactly. So then I met my wife. She said, why don't you become a chiropractor?
Hey,
and here we are.
There you are. And there you are.
Yes.
Now, describe to me a little bit about our friend over here. And you say that she's modeled on a German woman who obviously had a really good spine.
From what I understand, this model is cast from the spine of a elderly German woman who I believe died in the 40s.
In the 40s.
And it's either German or Austrian. Don't quote me on
okay.
the geographical location, but this is something which is used in all of the healthcare education fields.
Right.
So, and this is your basic spine,
Right. And we're actually looking at the back of the spine.
Yes.
And so this is the curve. And your spine isn't. Everybody thinks that your spine's supposed to be straight up and down.
It should be from front to back.
Front to back.
Yes.
Right. But not when you look at it on the side.
No,
it's
side
got
to side.
these little curves in it all over the place.
You can have the curve in the neck,
Right.
which should look like the curve of the neck of a swan,
Right.
forward like this. It should not be straight, and it should not have what we call a reverse curve.
Which is the other way.
Which is an indication of trauma to the neck, mostly a whiplash
Really?
or some such thing.
Right.
And those things, they cause disruption in the communication
Right.
between the brain and the rest of the body.
Right. Because running along this that red thing is the nerve that runs.
Well, this one here is
Right.
actually the vertebral artery.
Oh, that's an artery. Okay.
And this is an important artery because this supplies blood from the heart straight up into the back of the brain.
Wow.
So these arteries are important, and the main importance in terms of chiropractic is that these can be impinged by the soft tissue, the muscles, tendons, and ligaments, which are surrounding this whole area.
Right.
And if they get into a spastic state, then they can interfere with that blood flow.
Right.
And along with each of these blood vessels, also nerves are running. So
Right. So chiropractic isn't really just crunching bones,
No.
moving bones around. You got to kind of move some other stuff around here too.
Yeah.
Because that's what most people think. Most people think it's crack crunch and that
Sure.
you're done.
well, what they're hearing, right, is the release of carbon dioxide, just in like if you would open a pop bottle, right?
So
or
that's that crunch sound.
the pop.
The pop.
Right? Well, like
Yeah.
that is
Okay.
basically the release of CO2, carbon dioxide,
Huh.
which the body is producing all the time as it breaks down sugar and uses it for fuel.
Oh. Now, where exactly on the spine does this stuff kind of coagulate?
Well, mostly in the joints, and these are the joints here, and they're spread throughout the body. And these large joints, these are the SI joints, the sacroiliac joints.
Right.
These are again areas in which carbon dioxide can.
That whole area is jointed. It's not just a solid sort of thing down there.
No, this is actually a double joint, meaning it has two different types of joints within it.
Wow.
So the SI joint has what would be called a synovial or fluid filled at the
Right.
top, similar to our knee.
Uh-huh.
And at the bottom, it has a fibrous or connective tissue. So there's no liquid between them.
Oh.
And
okay.
that would be like ligaments between holding our finger joints
Right.
or these joints together.
And then, so the idea is to just keep all of those aligned so that you don't kind of get twisted out
It's
of
the alignment and also the proper movement. Most important because we are dynamic.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
We're always moving. We're not static.
Yeah.
Because of the movement is translated through all of this and out into the rest of the body. If
Right.
any of these joints are not available to transfer,
Right.
that movement and that force through the body that causes a problem within the system.
Right. Now we've got some pictures, and I'd like to go to those so we can describe a little bit more in depth as to what these little bits and pieces of your spine are. So if we can have that first one up. This is the perfect spine. Yay, that's what I want.
Yeah, so this is the basic diagram of a spine. The lady there, that's just an illustration of the various levels of the spine, and it shows how it lays within the body. So a person can get an idea of where that spine is located. The diagram on the right side of the different views of the spine show basically the curves. That's the middle one.
Right.
And that's the way the curve should run.
Right. And on the ones on either side, there's not supposed to be any curves.
Yes, you do not want to have large curves. So there will be some small curvature due to the organs, but it's not going to be huge like you would see in a person with scoliosis.
Right. Okay, and this is the perfect neck.
This is the neck, and this is the gateway to true spinal health, and it's also the area on most people which is the most problematic.
Really?
Because, I mean, you really don't have much around that neck.
Yeah, and it does move a whole lot.
Exactly.
I mean, it gets smacked around every which way from Sunday. So that's really kind of the center of everything.
Yep.
And this is a detail of some of those little vertebrae.
This is a close-up. And as you can see, the vertebrae is there, the discs, the darker parts of the image, the facet joint, that's between the spinous processes. Those are the bumps that you see on your back.
Oh,
you
the
know,
bumps
the
that you can feel, those little knobby things?
Yeah, and between those are the facet joints, and then you have the joints of Luschka, which are actually next to the discs themselves.
Right.
So a lot of the problems which people have with discs will be occurring around that area, the joints of Luschka, where nerves are coming out of the spinal
Right,
cord.
and they're the ones that get pinched when the nerve goes wonky.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, and this is some more
And
pictures.
so this is again, close up, and you can see it's got the three segments of the spine: the cervical or the neck, the thoracic or the chest area, and the lumbar or the lower back area. And a little bit of a close up on those on the right side there.
So how close is what we have to like a chicken? I mean, do all animals with spines, do they have a lot in common, or is it kind of really radically different?
It's actually very common, the structure of the spine amongst vertebrate or spine-bearing animals.
Spine-bearing animals, so there we go.
Yeah.
Hey,
and
we're all related. Now this is a cutaway section of the spine?
Yes, that's a vertebra, and that basically shows you how it looks like. The vertebral foramen is the area in which the spinal cord runs. So you can see it's not such a big area.
No, it's pretty tiny.
And if there's any irritation or inflammation in that area, problems can
it's
arise.
going to let you know about it, big time.
Yep. And here we go again, and you see the disc is right there, and you see the nerves coming off of the spinal cord. When the disc is, when people say they have a slipped disc,
Right.
what happens is a piece of that disc comes out and pushes on one of the nerves coming out of the spinal cord.
Now, is that really painful when
yeah.
you have like a slipped disc?
Yes, it can be
So
very
it's not
painful.
something that you wouldn't know about.
No.
You would definitely be aware of the fact that you have a slipped disc.
Yes.
And
For example, like if a person had a sciatica problem,
Right.
and it was due to a disc, coughing, sneezing would set it off.
Would set it off because you're
Yes.
moving and putting pressure on those nerves.
Exactly.
Right. And this is our last picture, and this shows that quite a few years ago, tennis elbow. That's what it was called in the beginning.
Yes.
And then they went on to call it a variety of other things, and lo and behold, guess what? Has nothing to do with your elbow.
So, in the way that the body is an interconnected organism, what we consider as perhaps tingly fingers or carpal tunnel can actually be due to problems within the wrist, within the elbow, within the shoulder, and within the neck. So all
Right.
these areas should be checked,
Right.
and that's basically what I do. When somebody comes to me with a problem like that. We'll start with that, and then we'll move toward a more overarching health picture
Right.
about how to maintain health
Right.
as well as regain it.
Right. So again, the body is an interconnected species here.
Exactly.
It's not just, oh, well, I'm going to adjust your back and everything's going to be fine. Wow. Now,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit more about the discs, because those guys are pretty important.
Yes.
Now, what exactly is a disc?
Think of a disc as a jelly donut.
A jelly donut.
Yes. Okay. So
Okay.
what you have is in the middle is the jelly or the soft part of the disc.
Oh, so it's not like just a piece of cartilage.
No, it's not.
Oh,
It's
okay.
actually got two parts to it generally, and that's the soft part in the middle. And that's called the nucleus of the disc. And then you have concentric rings, which, like a radial tire, encircle that soft part of the disc.
Right.
So what happens is that if there's an injury to the disc and that soft center is pushed out, breaking through the layers,
Oh, okay.
then you can get a prolapsed disc, sequestered disc,
Right, all these
etc.
different kinds of things
Yeah.
happening. Now,
Yes.
we're going to take a short break, and when
Okay.
we come back, we're going to have your daughter here.
Yes.
And you're going to have to say her name for her, because I've been trying to remember her name and I keep forgetting it.
Vaishnavi.
Vaishnavi
Yes.
is going to be here as your model, and we're going to be actually showing people some things about chiropractic, exactly what it does and how it works.
Yes.
So we're going to take a short break right now, and when we come back, we'll have a model for you, and we'll be moving over to another set, and that'll be quite exciting. Now we're going to go to my favorite person of all time, Ron Paul. I like the guy. He's still right. And this is a great little video clip that was done about a year ago. So this is Poker Face's song, and we're highlighting Ron Paul.
Too many people in America fear their government, and the government is being run by too many powerful agencies like the IRS and others. I think it's time the people take the country back through their representative government.
Hey, Mr. Politician, living on that hill, living in that life of luxury, on we the people's bill. Don't have a clue how the other half lives, and that is a shame. It's time to stop the tyranny. You keep pushing through your bills, going for a revolution, going for it now. It's time to save our Constitution while we still got the guns in our hands. And there's a farmer who's starving on their land. The rancher tries to feed his cattle and sheep on we the people's land. Try and live as a free man, you'll find it is illegal anymore. Time to stop these thugs from stealing what's been got handed down. Going for a revolution, going for it now. It's time to save our Constitution while we still got the guns in our hands. Now is the time to turn back the clock of a tyranny. For if we don't, then who will do it for ourselves? And how about our children? What kind of future will we leave them? And if we won't, we'll wake up slaves on the global plantation. Calling for a revolution, calling for it now. It's time to save our Constitution while we still got the guns in our hands. While we still got the guns, still got the guns in our hands.
It's good to be back at the Council on Foreign Relations. As Pete mentioned, I've been a member for a long time and was actually a director for some period of time. I never mentioned that when I was campaigning for re-election back home in Wyoming.
Do not wish this life to pass away, but life presents such possibilities each and every day. I heard a calling that was right.
Hi, welcome back, and we're here with Triveda Mobile Chiropractic and Mareechi and his daughter Vaishnavi. I finally get it. And we're going to do some demonstrating. So you
Yes.
take it from here and tell us what we're going to do.
All right, so this is what I do as a basic assessment when I first see a person or when I'm adjusting a person. So what we'll do is I look at the posture, and my daughter has been adjusted since she was born.
Yeah, well,
Actually,
hey, that's not fair.
But even then, as the person grows, there's going to be some stuff
Right.
which will occur. So with her, what I'm seeing right now is that the shoulder is higher than the left side.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little bit leaning over to her left, and her hips are high on this left side. And if we were to look at the ear canal here in
Mm-hmm.
relation to the shoulder, you can see it's a little bit ahead. So
Right.
she's got that forward head posture.
Mm-hmm.
This puts a lot of stress and strain right along this area here on the shoulders and the
Right.
back of the neck. And sometimes people will feel that also between the shoulder blades, like a pinching.
Right.
You know?
So that's sort of like a turtleneck thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is to get rid of that.
Yeah. Good.
So why don't you go ahead and lay down on your stomach. So first thing is to check the leg length in relation to each other. What this shows me is if there's a problem here or
Right.
in the neck itself.
Right. So a problem in your neck can actually make your legs
Exactly.
uneven.
Because after the brain, the neck is the first part, which the spinal cord goes
Right.
through. So if there's anything happening up here, it's going to show down here also.
Right.
Okay, so looking at her legs, this left leg is a little short compared to the right side. I'll bring it up, and I'll find that the legs are even here. What that shows me is that the problem most likely in the
Right.
pelvis itself.
Right, rather than in the knees, because the knees are at the same level.
Yes.
So no problem there.
Nope. So then I'll come down here, and what I'm testing here is how well the spine is transmitting the force that I'm putting into
Right.
it. So right at this point, this is about the 8th thoracic vertebrae. There are 12 thoracic vertebrae, so this is number 8. And I'll test it and see which way it moves better. And it will move one way better than the other.
Right.
So I'll take my contact, take a deep breath in, and let it out. And
Yeah.
That's it.
Crunchy.
that's the adjustment.
And that's the adjustment, releasing all that carbon.
Exactly, the carbon dioxide.
Right.
And then we're also resetting the thermostat, the controls, etc., that are here, feeding back into the brain. Then the brain is again sending signals back according to what has been received from this area.
Right. Interesting.
So then we'll test again. We'll see here, take a deep breath in, let it out, and that's that.
Wow.
Now come up higher.
Now, as you age, do
Yes.
you lose the ability to have things move around in there? Or is that just kind of like It's a good idea. It's a good thought because that way, we can sell you lots of drugs.
Well,
Your back won't move, so you need this drug.
Most people are miseducated about how to take care of their bodies. They're told, right, by the television, by parents, by
parents,
teachers,
doctors.
exactly. If you have this problem, go to Walgreens, Rite Aid, etc.
Yeah.
Buy this drug, take it. People are not falling for that anymore.
Yeah,
They're saying enough of this garbage. We want to know how to take care of our bodies the proper way.
It's not solving the problem.
Exactly.
It's just costing a whole lot of money.
Yes, and so people have found now her legs are even, both here as well as up.
Right, just by releasing that little
right here.
bit.
Yep, right in the mid-thoracic area. So why don't you go ahead and turn onto your back, Vaishnavi. So here we'll do the neck adjustment. So I'm going to come over here.
I'll let you come over here.
And starting at the base, or C7, I'll test and see which way the vertebrae move better. So this is C7 adjustment. Go ahead and take a breath in and let it out. Good. And that's that.
Wow.
So some people have told me, they've gone to other doctors and they've had their head twisted off, and or they've had a World Wrestling
World Wrestling Foundation
adjustment,
adjustment. Yeah.
So, and there's one more. Take a breath in, let it out, and that's that.
Wow.
Okay. Now take a deep breath in, let it
now
out.
that looks comfy. I like that one.
Yeah. I always put a little traction in on the spine. Take a deep breath in, which will allow any of the soft tissues that are still a little bit spasmodic to release.
To release and go back to where they should be.
Exactly. Okay, let me have you sit up and face that way. All right, so now I have this.
Yeah, I was looking at this. This is kind of an interesting little guy.
This is an
I've never seen that one before.
Yeah, it's an arthrostim. This is manufactured here in Oregon.
Really?
And it's used by a lot of practitioners, chiropractors, physical therapists, etc. And what this does is it allows me to adjust areas of the spine and the body which are not responsive as I would like them to be to the traditional adjustment.
So this actually stimulates them a little bit and gets them moving so that they will respond a little bit better. That's interesting.
And my elderly clients, they love it. This is the best thing. People who don't like the cracking.
Yeah, cracking can be a little...
Exactly.
Especially if you've been literally cracked a couple times.
Definitely, definitely.
It can get a little scary.
Yeah, so we can use this on them. And I have various tips which can be used. This is a wide fork.
Right.
And we just place it on here. This white knob is used to set the amount of pressure or force that's exerted at these tips. And then I can also control the number of times
it's actually doing its thing
per second. So right now I have it set at 12 times per second. So when the client is sitting or standing, I can come here.
Okay.
All right.
Might not be able to see that. We turn a little. Can she turn a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
You want to? There we go.
Okay.
So.
Let's see if we can. Yeah. Cool.
So what I'll do is I can find areas in the spine which I've adjusted her, but there's still tension I can feel.
Right. So this works on the muscles as well as the spine itself?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So I'll have that person breathe in, take a deep breath in, and then let it out. Good. And breathe in again, and out. Now what I'm doing here is I'm actually releasing the rear part of the diaphragm. Because most people don't know how to breathe with their diaphragm.
Yeah, most people are just very shallow breaths and don't actually exercise that back part of the diaphragm. They'll exercise the front part.
They haven't been taught how to do it.
And get that to move, but the back part, they don't realize it's a sheet that's supposed to go up and down.
Exactly. So, and then we'll go up here. Go ahead, take a deep breath in. And this is the shoulders, these muscles here that run like a yoke across our back. Go ahead and deep breath in. And there you go. So as you see, that's just slid down, and those muscles have released.
Right. Okay. So these little muscles have little micro contractions in them that are kind of
Now, if you've ever had muscle work done, And then you find trigger points.
Right.
That's that micro contraction you're talking
Right.
about. And for that, what I'll do is I'll use this tip here, because this will get into small areas.
Right.
And I'll ask a person, okay, tell me, is this tender here, Vaishnavi? Okay, now is this more tender or is this more tender? Number 2? Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go the opposite way. Okay, take a deep breath in, let it out. Now how does that feel? Okay, so
Right.
what I'm doing is I'm actually untorquing.
Untorquing it.
Which
so
something has
there's
been
so many
torqued up.
muscles going in so many different ways that they can all kind of just get their own little
Yeah.
crampy thing going
Yeah.
in their own crampy little direction.
Be like a room full of kindergartners.
That would be it, yeah.
So this allows me a great deal of flexibility in dealing with a person's
Right.
problems, whatever they need work
Now,
on.
how old is this particular thing? I've never seen it before.
This has been around for, I'm not particularly sure of the number of years it's been around, but I would say probably at least a decade, at least 10
Really?
years. Yeah.
That's interesting.
But
That's interesting.
this is more advanced than the original model, of
right.
course, because they're
was a hammer.
constantly working
Right.
on, refining it and making
Right.
it better, more suited.
That's just amazing, all the different kinds of things that have come up in traditional chiropractic. Now,
Yes.
how old is chiropractic? How long has
Chiropractic-
chiropractic been around for?
September 1895 is
18
the traditional
There's
birth
an
day.
actual date, a birth date.
Yes,
That's the
yes.
first. That's the first methodology I've ever seen that actually had a date. Why is there a particular date for it?
Harvey Lillard, and the regaining of his hearing.
Oh, really?
That's how chiropractic was founded. It's not a bad back, not a wry
Hearing.
neck, not headaches, even though those are all there, and that's what we help
Right.
people with also. What happened, I haven't read the story for a while, but Harvey Lillard was a black man in Iowa who had his own business repairing boilers. So
Okay.
he was,
Boilers to chiropractic. This is good.
yeah, so that's how they heated the houses back then,
Yeah.
right? And anyways, they were in the tallest building, a 3-story building in Davenport, Iowa at the time. They meaning Harvey Lillard and D.D. Palmer, who is the founder of chiropractic.
Oh, really?
So he had been studying magnetic healing. And he would do the healing, but he didn't know why these people were still, again, reverting back to the
Right.
unhealthy state. So he was studying the older teachings, Hippocrates, Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, etc. And what he found was all of them were saying the spine.
So all of
is
the
the seat.
older traditions were pointing directly to the spine, and then
Exactly.
somewhere along the line, we forgot about the spine.
Yes.
That's interesting. Very
And,
interesting.
that's been one of the main reasons one does yoga is
Right.
for spinal hygiene.
Exactly.
So what he did was he formulated a way, an approach in which this spine can be adjusted. Those are the words he chose, not manipulated, because a manipulation by itself means just no
Moving
point
it
to
around,
it. Yeah,
and
just
it's- yeah.
crack, crack, crack,
Yeah, just moving it around.
Whereas an adjustment denotes something which is
It's going to move, change, and stay there.
exactly,
Right,
there's a
okay.
reason behind it.
So how did his hearing get involved in this?
Well, Harvey was in back of a boiler, yanking on something, and he heard a pop in his neck. Slowly his hearing started to degrade. So he's up here on this fortuitous night in Davenport, Iowa, and he's friends with D.D. Palmer, and D.D.'s like, hey, I'm researching something, and let's try something on you, okay? And,
what do you get to lose? You lost your hearing.
and Harvey's like, I don't know if he spoke or what, but anyways, he comes, they clear the table off, he lays down on the office table, and he's basically checking his back and his neck, and he finds this big lump on the side. He's like, what is this?
Yeah.
So he takes his hands and puts one on top of the other.
And says, well, whatever it is, it's going back in.
That's right. So he hit it, and he thought, oh, he heard a loud crack. He thought he'd killed him. He's like,
yeah,
Harvey,
really?
alive?
How you doing, Harvey?
And so he gets up, Harvey Lillard gets up, and he says, I can hear the wagons on the cobblestones, and that's 3 stories down.
So an adjustment in your back can actually affect your hearing.
And the reason why is this.
I'm having trouble here.
I said, why did that happen? There is a nerve which comes up from the base of the neck, from this area here, which actually controls the movement of signals from the inner ear, from the hearing center, into the brain itself. That had been impinged upon in that injury. Oh. So when he got that adjusted, it relieved pressure. The inflammation, everything started to drain away. As it drained away, his hearing gradually returned.
So could this be possibly connected with a lot of older people who have really bad posture?
Yes.
You know, the typical look, also have onset of bad hearing.
Yes.
It's not like their hearing goes bung over a period of years. It's like a period of weeks. Their hearing goes bad.
Yes.
So it can be that nerve. That's amazing.
Well, what happens, it's like this. Think of that game, the straw that broke the camel's back. Remember that game?
Really.
So in the same way, a person may, over years, develop a lot of problems with their body.
Right.
But they have never addressed it properly to reinstate the body's ability to heal itself.
And then you get to that one point where, boom, all of a sudden everything stops.
Basically.
And your hearing stops. Excellent.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate this, Mareechi, and I appreciate your daughter being here as the guinea pig model here. We're going to take another short break. And we're going to see 2 very tiny short videos, which are very interesting concepts. This is not something that you're going to normally see on mainstream TV. So sit back and relax. 2.5 minutes of some unusual video.
The human species are confronting a planetary emergency, a threat to the survival of our civilization that is gathering ominous and destructive potential.
Each one of us is a cause of global warming.
We need to be part of a strong global treaty. Along with using the tax system and a cap-and-trade treaty approach, you should not shy away from using regulatory power. This Congress should enact a moratorium, ratify a new, tougher treaty, work toward de facto compliance.
As George Orwell reminds us, sooner or later, a false belief bumps up against a solid reality.
No!
Usually on a battlefield.
There is no global warming crisis. The Earth hasn't warmed for a decade, but politicians are using this so-called crisis as an excuse to raise taxes, choke our economy, and control our lives. Don't let them push us into a new 1984.
(2009), between 8:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. is Earth Hour. During that hour, lights will go out around the world. This is what you can expect. Instead, join millions of others who will celebrate Human Achievement Hour at the same time. It will look something like this.
I believe it all is coming to an end. Oh well, I guess we're gonna pretend. Let's see how far we come. Yeah, let's see how far we go. Let's see how far we've come. 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 Let's see how far we've come.
step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hi, welcome back to Freedom TV, and I'm here with Mareechi Duvvuri, and we're talking about mobile chiropractic.
Yes.
I have to ask you, whatever gave you the idea of, hey, I'll just make it mobile? I mean, come on.
It's not what, it's who.
It's who, really?
My wife again. Thank you,
You married
Tina.
the right one. Very good.
Well, you know, everything occurs because there's a plan for us to achieve something. And
Right.
that's the way I look at it. In '98, when I graduated from the Life Chiropractic College West down in Hayward, California, I set up an office in uptown San Francisco.
Uptown. Oh, nice cheap location.
At the time it was, you know.
Yeah.
But what happened is I asked my father for a business loan. He gave me a $15,000 business loan. So using $8,000, I basically opened an office up, I sublet Monday through Thursday a room from a masseuse who worked for another chiropractor. Within 6 to 7 months, I was the busiest chiropractor there. And people would line up the stairs to come have a party at my place, you know.
That's excellent.
We went to Eugene, where my wife is from, to have a 2-week vacation. Come back, they raised my rent from $500 a month to $750.
Ouch!
I said, forget this. Of course, a few expletives were laced within that. But so I told my wife, and she said, well, you're seeing some people at their houses. Why don't you do that for everybody else? Very good idea.
Yeah.
So
why
immediately I told everybody as they came in, this was in August, I believe, as they came in, I would tell them, hey, at this time, I'm going to quit this office thing and do house visits. They're like, really?
Cool.
They were like, nope, nobody does house visits.
No, I've never heard of anyone doing chiropractic in somebody else's house.
So
it's always you got to go to the office and.
Well, you see what it takes, right?
Yeah.
A table, a heart, a mind, and.
Hello, they have mobile chiropractic. Mobile massage. Why not chiropractic? And I think we have a question from the audience. Do you have a question for Mareechi?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hey, my name's Kathleen, and I'm actually a client of Dr. Duvvuri.
Hey, Kathleen.
Yeah. So if I'm having some numbness and tingling in my hands, like sometimes I get from my work, and you adjust my neck, and the numbness and tingling goes away. Now, that's what you were talking about with the alignment. Is what exactly is pinching to make my hands go numb? You know, especially like when I go to sleep at night, during the night, you know, my hands will go numb.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, can you explain to me just a little bit exactly what happens in my neck? And it's just such an amazing thing, because I work so much, and then when my hands are numb, and you come to my house, and you give me an adjustment, it goes away. It's like a miracle.
Okay, which one of these little parts is the one that's moving around? Can you show us on that?
Yeah. Well,
Excellent.
what we're doing here is with Kathleen. She's a masseuse, and she's really good, and she works hard on what she does. West Hills Racket Club. But this is first thoracic, or T1 vertebrae, and this is 7, 6, and 5 cervical vertebrae. Out of this area right here comes what's called the brachial plexus. The brachial plexus means arm nerves.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So those guys are not being happy.
Yes.
And especially if she's a masseuse, hello.
All the muscles.
What are we using all the time? It's
all the shoulder muscles and the neck muscles.
Are
they
going
start
crampy,
to tighten up.
Crampy.
And also what happens is that the atlas, the top one here, can become jammed or rotated in one way or another.
Right.
When that happens, it does not allow proper communication to occur to all the muscles here in this area,
Right.
and also from the brain down into the upper part of the back.
Right, and so then you get this numbness happening.
And remember, with
Excellent.
every nerve travels a blood vessel.
Right, and that's compensating, complicating the problem.
Exactly.
I think we have another call. Do you have a question for Mareechi?
Yes, since you've had acupuncture training, I was wondering if you've incorporated that into your practice, or at least possibly have corroborated some of the knowledge that you had about that.
Well, I do send patients of mine to acupuncturists, and it's not a matter of believing acupuncture works or not. It does work.
Yeah.
What I do is I try to understand the context within which the problem is occurring. And if the acupuncture approach can help, then I will send them to that.
Right.
So I will include the acupuncture, if necessary, soft tissue work. The chiropractic, though, is the basis of it. And the incorporation of other healing modalities simply allows a greater range of approaches to problems.
Right.
So,
and then the more heads you have working on the problem and the bits and pieces, because it's the body is so complex.
Yes.
For me, it's like, why are we spending all of our time on fixed wing bombers? Hello. It's like, everybody's got one. It's not oh, well, there's only a small number of people who have a spine. So, why aren't we spending more time, more energy, more effort in learning how these things all work together?
Well, again, it's miseducation.
Right.
Right? Well, you go to a public school, a government school, and you are taught to do things in a certain way.
Right.
In the early days, before government schools, it was taught how to use your creativity to survive and to grow within the world in which you're living.
And question.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because it's the questioning which allows one to solve problems.
Right.
And when you solve the problem, then you can, more questions will arise.
More questions arrive. Speaking of more questions, I think we have another one. Yes, do you have a question for Mareechi? Can't hear you. No, we don't? Okay. I thought we did. I thought we had the telephone thing. One of the things I did want to ask you about with chiropractic is it's not really that old when you think about it. I mean, a little over 100 years. That's not very long.
No, it's not.
What are the major things that have changed in chiropractic from the very beginning?
Politics.
Politics. Oh, we do have another question. Yes. Do you have a question of Mareechi?
Yes, I do. Hello.
Hi.
I was told that I have a little bit more than a 30% fracture of the T9 vertebra.
Yes.
And it's not a new fracture. It's an old one which is already healed, and there's nothing that can be done about it. My question is, could that be causing the severe pain and muscle spasms that I've been having for like almost 18 months now?
Now, how old is the fracture?
It was a year this last September.
And how was it acquired?
It was a physical attack.
Okay. And so it's been over a year.
Yes.
It's usually, if it's completely healed and you're still having problems that are related to that level of the spine, whether it be organ problems or muscular problems, then adjusting the area with an instrument or soft touch and addressing the whole spine along with that could allow you to become a little bit less painful, and hopefully with time and proper focused work could actually make that into a very minor part of your daily life.
Well, that's very good news. Thank you.
Also, I'd like to point out to you that I'd like to stand up for you. I'd like to show you the legs that people said I would never walk on again. and that I would never dance again. So because somebody tells you nothing will ever happen again or something cannot be fixed, don't believe them. There's a man around right now who was a total paraplegic. In other words, he didn't have legs and he didn't have arms that moved. And he's now up walking around talking and moving. So just because somebody tells you that it can't be fixed, don't take that as gospel. Because if they were God, they would have a halo. And so if they don't have a halo, then there's no reason you should believe them that it can't be fixed.
Yes, the main thing is to understand that your body has been given the ability to heal itself, which means that already the mechanisms are there. But like any other mechanism that we use in our daily life, we have to understand how to use the mechanism which is within our body. So we know exercise, we know diet, nutrition, and we do know about mental hygiene but don't use it a lot. And then there's spinal hygiene. And these things, when used all together in combination with each other, will allow one to be more and more helpful.
And that's the whole thing. And I want to thank you so much, Mareechi, for being on the program and telling us about this, because it's important stuff. People need to know the different modalities that there are to help them achieve a perfect balance in their life. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. And thank you all for being here. And we'll see you next week. We have a very special program next week. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Nah. So join us next week for Freedom TV.
I cry for my country, for the pain that it's been through. She's been made to suffer for the profit of a few. Storm clouds are forming, winds of change now touch our shores. Our hear forefathers are crying as the dream's been cruised. America, I show my love for thee with strength and loyalty. America, I show my love for you.